What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker, and today on Unique Access, we have the honor and the privilege of being joined by E.D.I. Thanks for coming through again, sir.
Hey, what's up with it? Good to see you, Soren.
Yeah, man. E was one of our first interviews we ever did for the channel, so I'm glad that he was willing and able to come back for round two.
Oh, I didn't know that, man.
Yeah, man. You were early in the game.
I'm honored.
Yeah, man. Well, we're honored to have you and to have you again. And when I saw you at the OG Volume 2 Classics in Session, I wanted to get you back on because there's a lot of material on there that I think is really, really good. So first things first, how and why?
Thank you.
Yeah. So how and why did you come up with that title for the project?
Well, I had did a project that I dropped, I believe, in 2013. It was called OG Established 1992, and it was more like a mixtape. I had Mike Epps. He gave me the great honor of hosting my mixtape. You know what I mean? For free, didn't charge me nothing. And I did that with DJ X Rated and Black Bill Gates out of Atlanta. And a lot of people liked that mixtape. I started doing other albums though, the Hope Dealer Parts 1 and 2. And OG just had more of a relaxed feel to it. It wasn't too heavy on the subject matter. It was just good music. So I said I wanted to do that again, but just, a little bit better, fine tune it a little bit. And Classics in Session is just a play on words, and I feel like through my music I can teach as well. So it's Classics in Session, because it's classical hip hop music in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think we'll talk a lot about the production because I think it's great on here. And Doughboy had actually hit me up. Yeah, Doughboy hit me up, said he worked on it with you too. So
yeah, man. Yeah, so this was the first time I actually had somebody else helping me pick beats and producers to work with and artists to work with. Normally, when we do like Outlaw projects, it's by committee, and then my solo stuff is just all me. And so I said for OG Part 2, I wanted to bring somebody in, and Doughboy really created the job for himself because I started doing a couple of things with him for his project, and I liked his ear for beats. And so when I started my project, I said, why don't I pull Doughboy in and use his ear a little bit to, get his project a different sound than what people are normally used to hearing me rap on.
Right. Well, that makes sense, and I think it worked well. If this is what it's going to be, that's a great combination and partnership you guys going. And the thing that I thought was interesting, even though the first OG may not have had the heavy subject matter, I think there's a lot of gems and lessons and knowledge in this project, as you've done a lot throughout your career, solo and with the Outlaws, of course. But we'll talk about it, starting off the album. How and why did you want to have the Maya Angelou poem to kick off the album?
Yeah, I found that poem after I had did the song. And so the beat always had that long intro. Shout out to Cali Velli who did that track with those keys. And so I wanted to, put something on that space. I didn't want to lose that because it's so moody. And so, it sets the tone for the album. And I was just, on YouTube one day. I'm a fan of Maya Angelou, off top. Let me say that first. I've always been a fan of hers. We named our album Still I Rise, of course, after the poem. Pac named that song Still I Rise after Maya Angelou. Pac and Maya had a relationship, themselves, of course, because of the movie Poetic Justice that she was in. And so she's always been in my on my radar, so to speak, since I was a little kid. My mom had her book, she's a legend. And so I said, why don't I start the album off with some feminine energy and an OG to tie it all in with the concept. Maya Angelou is an OG in the poetry world, Black civil rights, the whole spectrum. So, when I found that poem, which is actually from an interview she was doing, I think with Dick Cavett, she just, went off the cuff and just started doing one of her poems. You know what I mean? And I said, that's perfect. I like what she was saying. The words are poignant and it just fit perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the song, which is also one of my favorites, talk about it on the project, how you're talking about walking through life unafraid and never running from your flaws. So, that's something that I think are life lessons. But for you, with each one of those, how did you learn those two things and practice them yourself?
Yeah, life is the greatest teacher, man. Just bumping my head, making mistakes, you know, um, growing, evolving, all of that in one pot, and you get those bars, which is true. We can't run from our flaws. They're there to teach us and help us to grow if that's what we want to do.
Yeah, I got you. And then what part of like when did that really start kicking in for you on a personal level?
Man, it started kicking in for me when I was in my 30s and just kind of just kind of living life. I say at the edge of my seat, just you know in and out of relationships, marriages, having kids, making money, traveling, just doing what I would call the norm as far as manhood and the maturation process for a lot of us. And I started to realize, obviously this is not something that's sustainable. As a human being, it's only a couple of ways this can end up. And I didn't like what I saw. So I just started to change some things about myself. You know what I mean? And I say it happening towards my late 30s.
Okay. Well, it's good that, something I always try to do too is learn from my mistakes and grow. And you talk about grow and develop on the album as well, but I think it's one thing to acknowledge those things. It's another thing to actually take action to change them. And that's something.
Yeah, that's when the work comes in.
That's what I was getting to, because it's one thing to, like, first of all, to have the awareness to realize you got these shortcomings, but then to actually act on it to fix them, I think is the hard part. And that's what people, for whatever reason, aren't willing to do.
Nah, because it's tough. You know what I mean? And the ego always wants to be satisfied. We find ways to satisfy the ego very young. It happens almost naturally, and it's a way to protect us. And you can be walking around here and completely delusional. You know what I mean? But you could be making a lot of money. You could be having a lot of success professionally. All of those things could be going right for you. But if the internal work is not being done, then eventually it's going to crumble. We can look throughout history from great people to the average everyday Joe, and we see the example over and over and over again. And I, by no means, have found, the secret to personal self-development and getting to that level, but I aspire to, be better every day. And I think that's all we can do.
Right. And that falls in nicely to the next song, the Avant Mind State, of having a new mind state. So, for those that don't know what you're referring to, explain where you got the title from, who he is, and why you came up with that.
Yeah, well, when the documentary Black Godfather came out on Netflix, and it was basically an expose on Clarence Avant, I was inspired by it. I was inspired by his story. I was inspired by the way he moved. I appreciated his bluntness and the fact that he was able to connect with all these different people, no matter their race, color, creed. He just was one of these people that everybody seemed to not only like but respect. And so I was inspired by it. I seen it 3 or 4 times. Every now and then I watch 20, 30 minutes just for a quick, inspiration when I need it. And I decided to do a song. Now that song, when I did it, it didn't even have a title. It had another title that I knew I wasn't going to use. I was just using it temporarily, and I didn't even have a title that I liked for it, but I liked the song. You know what I mean? So I'm just working on a project, and I said, why don't I say a line in there about Clarence Avant and Avant Mind State, and so I just was like, let's just call it that, and give it that give it that royalness. you know, because I feel like Clarence Avant is a king, and he's a king maker. You know, that's why he's a king.
Yeah, and also on the song, you start off with the little Geto Boys reference from Scarface with Mom playing tricks on me. So what was it about the beat or what you were thinking at the time that made you want to use that reference?
Man, the Geto Boys is a big influence on me. You know, Face, Willie D, big influences on me, and I had the pleasure and the honor of being able to work with them, you know, up close and personal, and getting to know them in a lot of different ways after years of listening to them. You know, Pac didn't respect. I wouldn't say respect, but he wasn't a fan of a lot of people. He appreciated a lot of people's music, but I seen him be a fan of Scarface and be impressed by what Scarface did, and I was already a fan of him, and I just felt like they may not get enough credit as they deserve, but I'm inspired by their shit. You know what I'm saying? And so I wanted to shout them out. You know, that's how we do in hip hop. You know, we might quote your bar here and there, but that's like a show of respect. That's like the utmost honor when another MC, you know, does that for another MC.
And in the same song, you also did that with Juvenile, which that one was more surprising given our conversations over the years. I knew what you in particular, and obviously Pac, felt about Scarface, but the Juvenile was a pleasant surprise. So what made that work well on that song as well?
Yeah, another legend that I had the chance to know and work with. And, you know, 400 Degrees, even though I said 500 Degrees, 400 Degrees, his album, that's a seminal album. That's a classic album, you know, and you know, I just was riffing, coming up with concepts, different lyrics. I really don't write anymore. I actually just go in the studio and just vibe with the track and just tell the engineer, you know, when I mess up, punch me in, and I come up with something else. So it's a lot more spontaneous. It's a lot more free flowing. It's kind of like jazz music. You know, I'm not so calculated when I'm writing everything. I'm letting the music tell a story for me, and I just verbalize it. And that just came out, man, because I'm a Juvie fan. Shit, who ain't?
Another song that I really liked was the Roses song, and that one kind of message-wise and even kind of alluding to kind of like a hope dealer type of thing of like, you know, celebrating people and moving forward instead of being stuck in like the negativity. So given that that's something that obviously is important to you, what made Roses a way that you could frame it to make it connect with people?
Man, Roses was directly inspired by the Nipsey Hussle tragedy. And it was inspired by his tragedy for more reasons than one. But the main reason was the outpouring of love he received after he was murdered just made me reflect upon how we value life and how we value each other, and how death in our community is honored instead of life. And that shit was actually kind of disturbing to me, man. It made me realize, you know, even, and Pac really personified this, even though he was loved while he was here, he, of course, his death just exalted him into the stratosphere, you know what I'm saying, of icons and the way he died, and, you know, the massive amount of work he left behind him, you know. And I know a couple of people on a personal level in Nipsey's camp, and I just was seeing how it was affecting them. And, you know, they would hit me up about advice on how to, you know, how we should move. And, you know, I was blunt with them. I was like, yo, for the most part, learn from the mistakes that we made. You know what I'm saying? Because there was a lot of mistakes that I feel like we made, but there was no blueprint on how to navigate, you know, after someone so significant and, you know, was the main headpiece to everything that we was doing professionally and as a family. It's really no blueprint on how to navigate after that. So to make a long story short, the Roses song was inspired by Nipsey, and it just made me say, look, give me not only my roses, but give the people you love their roses more while they're here, and don't wait till they're gone to, you know, recognize how great they was, and, you know, how much we needed them, and because then it's too late.
I agree. And I think the song does a good job of that. And I think you also, at the same time, talk about the personal belief and faith in yourself. Like when you said, they counted me out, I counted my blessings. So that's also a theme of the album, I would say, or subtext of it is that you have a lot of, it's about having faith in yourself and believing in yourself. So how does that play into your day-to-day life now?
Man, it's that belief that gets me out the bed in the morning. You know, when I get, we get more no's in this business than we get yeses sometimes. And it's that belief that helps me to keep pushing. If you don't have that, you really you don't have nothing. And that's how, that's the only way to be successful. At the root of it is belief first.
Right. Yeah. And that's something that I've always been amazed and grateful that I have always had that. My parents instilled that in me as a kid, but I'm still around, and I'm sure you are too. A lot of people that don't really believe in themselves. And it's like, you got to believe in yourself before anybody else does,
Absolutely. Like, that's how it starts. That's literally how it starts, man. And it gets cliche. It's because, we got social media with the memes, and, they're very positive, and it's positive energy. But you got to find a way to really adapt that as a lifestyle. It's not enough to just, say it has to be a lifestyle, literally.
Yeah. So on to another song that I liked was the Easy Call, because I always, like Be Legit and think he's kind of overlooked a lot. And of course, for those that do
talk about it,
yeah, you and me, we did the E-40 in a major way for the best albums early in the game on Unique Access. So I know you got a lot of love for E-40 and the Click. So what made Be Legit right for Easy Call?
Man, let me first shout out E-40, because his last project, I forget the name of it, but he got 28 songs on it for his 28 years in the business.
Right.
And that album was dope to me. It was vintage E-40. It didn't sound dated. It sounded current, but it was still 40. So after my last project, The Hope Dealer 2, I was kind of like ready to take a break on rap and not really put any whole projects out for a minute. And when I heard that album, man, I just got a burst of energy, man. So I got to give 40 another shout out. He's the reason for OG too, because I was like, 40 was like, man, for him to still be doing it at a high level is something that we should, again, continue to give him his roses and really recognize that this hasn't been done. He's literally blazing a trail. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's other MCs that still dropping projects. And of course, we got to always give honorable mention to Jay-Z. He's literally timeless. But what other MCs that have been in the game this long are still this relevant and doing it on that level? So I wanted to give E-40 his props on that. And I've always been a Be Legit fan. And even though we worked together through here and there indirectly, I never had him on anything that I really wanted him on. And, that I needed him on it. And I sent it to him, and he got on it immediately. And, you know what I mean? Another one off the bucket list.
Yeah, because even on No Regrets, the Realest shouts him out, 40 that is, shouts him out at the end of the album. So I was like, man, they got so much love for the Click. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man. They're a staple in this shit, man. That whole team, you know what I mean? And the Bay Area, Northern California, is theirs. You know what I mean? Like, it all roads lead back to them in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. So another song that I really like on OG Volume 2, Classics in Session, is The Win, Keep Your Head Up Part 3. Because for one, just the way that the Sounds of Blackness sample comes in and how you guys use that, I thought it was phenomenal. And I really, really liked how you, even before the song kicks in or you start rapping, that you pay homage to it. So what was it about that at that point that really connected with you as an artist?
Yeah, man. First shout out to Poly Boy Rob and Local Astronauts who did that track. They also did Roses. You know, when I first heard the track, I always loved that song, man. Like that song is an amazing song. It's so inspirational. I remember hearing it on the radio as a kid, as a teen. I lived some years in Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And so that group is from there. That song was produced by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, who are also from Minneapolis and St. Paul area. And I just remember that song just being inspirational to me, even as a kid. And so when Poly Boy Rob played the beat for me, I already knew exactly what I was going to do to it. I had to have it. You know, he'll tell you, I immediately started writing to it. And those are the songs that, you know what I mean, that are easiest to do when it's just a match made in heaven. And I think that message needs to continue to be put out there no matter what, especially in these days and times.
Yeah, every day is another chance for you to advance. Like, that's the thing that I thought was so great about the album is that you're weaving all these like very important lessons, messages, mantras, words to live by into the album, and it's done, to me at least, to where it's like seamless and it's not really preachy. It's more of just that's what it is. So how did you find that you were able to balance injecting the information and not coming off too preachy?
Man, because I don't want to be preached to my damn self. You know what I mean? And I know nobody else wants to hear a whole project of that. You know, we use music to get away and to escape. And if it can inspire, you know, I think that's great too. But when a lot of times when I'm doing these songs and I'm saying these inspirational things, I'm really kind of talking to myself. It's really just, you know, me and the music. A lot of times I don't record with a crowd of people in the studio like I used to back in the days. It's not always a party atmosphere. It's really just me, an engineer, one or two homies, and I'm talking to, you know, like I said, I'm talking to myself a lot of these times. And if you could take something from it, beautiful. That's what's up.
Yeah. And I think my favorite two back to back are The Win and then the I Remember. Because those two, I think, I remember those two are probably also my favorite two beats on the album other than Talk About It. So I thought it was interesting.
Cali Belly again on I Remember. Young, dope producer, man. Young, dope. I think he's from like Santa Barbara, if I'm not mistaken, man. And, you know, I just, you know, I ran into him. Actually, DeMizza introduced me to him. You know what I mean? DeMizza had a lot of hit records in the early 2000s, and he was also program director of Power 106. You know what I mean? So he had this kid under his wing. Go ahead.
I was saying, and he's from Santa Barbara. So there you go.
And he's from Santa Barbara. You know what I mean? So I met him. You know, we always chopped it up. I had heard he had did some work with Kanye. I don't know exactly what he did with Kanye, but he's been getting beats around to a couple of people, and he just sent me a pack of beats, and all of them was dope. You know what I mean? All of them was fire. Every last beat. I couldn't take them all, so I took two, and it was I Remember and Talk About It. And yeah, and that track is crazy.
Absolutely. So that one,
stupid.
That one, of course, has Noble in it. So on it, I should say. So, you know, when you're doing solo projects, how do you decide when and how to incorporate Young Noble, for instance?
Man, me and Noble have done so much music together, you know, I wouldn't even say just post-Pac, just post, you know, from 2010 until right now. It's almost second nature to how we work together. And I'm always on his solo stuff. He's always on mine. And, you know, I know what Noble sounds absolutely phenomenal on. You know what I mean? He can rap to anything, but I know where he's comfortable at. And I remember as soon as I heard it, I was like, yeah, Noble is definitely going to body this right here. This is in his lane. And, you know, it just came together kind of, you know, easily. As soon as he heard it, he knew where I was going with it.
Right. And then what about with Deuce in there? That's one of the rare songs when it's multiple people rapping, you know, each verse and having a longer, more guests on it.
Yeah, Deuce Deuce is from Toronto. Shout out to Deuce Deuce, the whole Concrete Mob fam. You know, Deuce was a legend already in hip hop in Toronto before Drake as an MC, and he ran into some trouble right in the middle of his career, and it took him out the game for a little while, and he got inspired to get back in it, you know, through our music and the stuff that we continue to put out. Him and Nove have a great relationship. I think they done dropped like 5 or 6 projects together with just them two on it. And I always feature on that stuff. And Deuce has traveled around the world with us. You know, he goes on the road with us at this point now. So it's more like a family situation. And I wanted to get him on it too, because I feel like that's his lane too. If you've ever been to Toronto, man, Toronto's a lot like New York. You know what I mean? It's like a mini New York City. So if you've never been to Toronto, man, let me tell you right now, it's like a mini New York. You know, it has a lot of different nationalities, races, and it's like a melting pot of all these different cultures in this one city. And Deuce is actually, you know, he has an Egyptian background. And so he's been around the world with us. We've toured together, and I knew I wanted both of them on that same track because I think it kind of fits their lane. It has a more East Coast vibe. Reminds you of that boom bap East Coast rap.
And then the last cut on the album, the No Regrets, where you started off with the Denzel monologue there. What made that work on that? Because it seemed like slightly against a lot of what the album was talking about.
Yeah, well, I don't want you to get too comfortable. You know what I mean? As a listener, I don't want you to just sit there and think I'm gonna be dropping all this, you know, positivity, because that ain't balance. The balance of life is negative and positive. You know what I mean? The only way you get a battery to work is through the negative energy and the positive energy. So you need both. You just got to be able to balance both and know when it's time to get a little dark. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like a prelude as well to OG3, because with OG2 being so sunny, you know, I got to add some balance to it and you know, give you some of that darkness too that people know we could do as well.
Okay. And then what about collaborating with the Realest? Because I know a lot of people are always saying he's trying to ride Pac's coattails and stuff. So what made him somebody you were comfortable working with in 2020?
Well, outside of the music, me and the Realest, and actually the Realest and pretty much a lot of the Outlaws developed a more personal relationship and got to know who he was. And so I'm not really gonna go into detail about a lot of things, but I will say, you know, he's one of the more solid individuals that I have a relationship in this industry. And on that reason alone, we've done music before, and me and him have done records before. And to be completely honest with you, No Regrets is about 5 years old. We did that back in 2013 when I first moved back to LA. And you know, Realest was one of the first people I connected with when I got back to the city. He's always been a supportive kind of individual. He's a more positive individual, and I kind of tend to, you know, connect more with people that are more positive and upbeat. He don't really got a lot of negative things to say about nobody. He just do what he do, you know. And I know he caught a lot of flack for, you know, falling into that so-called Pac, you know, wave. But a lot of MCs did after Pac died. So if we're gonna start calling people out, man, it's a list of them. Where you want me to start?
It still goes on till today. It's a lot.
Still to this day, man, a whole empire has been built on the strength of Pac. You know what I mean? So, you know, if the Realest is guilty of that, he ain't alone.
Right.
The courtroom is packed.
Yep, there's a lot of testifying that be going on.
100%.
So that being said, with obviously we're in the middle of the pandemic here with COVID, and then we have the George Floyd stuff and all the insurrections going on.
Crazy times.
Absolutely. So if we look at those things individually, either one would have disrupted us. But the combination, what do you think the combination of the two of them has had on you as a person, and then as we see it unfolding in our society?
Well, it's really let me know personally that a lot of the internal work I've done on myself was for this time period right here. You know what I mean? Because an older version of me probably probably would have not have, adjusted as well as I think I've been adjusting. The old me couldn't sit still. I always had to be doing something. And so now you're forced to sit still. And when we forced to sit still, we're forced to look at ourselves. But I've been accustomed to sitting still prior to this. So it wasn't really that much of adjustment. You know what I mean? Because I understand that the need to sit still, and that's one of the hardest things for us to do, especially when we're go-getters and we, entrepreneurs, and we understand that what we kill is what we eat. We always on to the next possibility and the next money-making situation. And so I had to learn how to balance life, or I would eventually burn out. That's how a lot of us die young, from stress, bad health, eating, started to pay more attention to my health. And so really, it couldn't have come at a better time when I really look at it for me personally, because prior to it, I was doing a lot of touring, I was traveling a lot. The travel is wear and tear as you get a little older, you know what I mean? And you ain't flying private, just to be honest with you. We don't fly private when we traveling 23 hours to Nepal. You know what I mean? A lot of the times we might be even in coach. You know what I'm saying? So I welcome the break. Now I'm ready to get back to work though.
Yeah. And so then how are you preparing yourself to get back to work? And what do you have lined up?
Man, we don't have anything lined up as far as right now. Everything that we are currently involved in is our businesses outside of music. But we still dropping projects just to keep our fans, satisfied with new music. The ones that appreciate the new music from us, we're going to keep something coming. But we also started a hemp company, Outlaws Hemp is official. We dropped it in late June, and it's already getting a lot of positive, responses from our product. We'll be in smoke shops around the country by the end of the year. And so we're focusing on businesses outside of music just to maintain and make sure, we maximize that IP. You know what that's about, Soren?
Absolutely. That's the key to the game. That is the key to the game. Multiple revenue streams.
100%. 100%. And then hopefully we'll get back on the road, man. 2021, hopefully this thing, has ran its course. Hopefully America as a country and as a government will learn how to handle this thing a little bit better. Hopefully people will stop dying and, things can go back to normal.
Right. And then with the personal stuff, as far as this is a good time for these types of things to happen, and kind of comparing and contrasting, like what, being that you're able to slow down and think and not just be in motion all the time, like, were there a series of things that happened? Because I know a little bit of that, you talked about and talk about it, but specifically for your life, was there a lot of big things that happened, or was it one thing, or was it gradual? Like, how did it happen?
Life is full of twists and turns. I mean, I'm a father and I have children, and one of my things that are not professional, probably the thing that I care about the most outside of my relationship with my fiance is my relationship with my children and being a father. My children are from my marriage that ended many years ago, but it's important for me to maintain that relationship. You know what I mean? I'm a grandfather now as well. And my daughter graduated high school, which was, an amazing thing because she persevered through me and her mom's divorce and so many other things in her life to not only graduate, but graduate at the top of her class and earn an acceptance to a major college. that should be starting to in the fall. So all of these milestones, you know, continue to happen while we live in this life that we live. And of course it affects you. It makes you, you know, look at life different. It makes you take, you know, the future a lot more serious. You know, honestly, growing up the way we grew up and the lifestyle we was living, the future wasn't really something we paid a lot of attention to. You know, we was either living in the now, or, you know, living in the in a place where none of us existed. So to really think about the future and start adding to my foundation and things of that nature is it's important. And I don't think it's any accident that certain things happen in the world. I believe in everything happening the way it's supposed to, and maybe we all needed a little break and a chance to slow down.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing. If we, as a country and even as a world, are able to kind of look at things a little differently, what we need versus what we don't, and not doing a lot of wasteful stuff, I think it could actually be helpful. And then if we're able to, in our country, you know, address the problems of the system that created the George Floyd scenarios, that could also be positive if we actually act on these things. So
yeah, and a lot of stuff is systemic, and we have to, you know, kind of really do away with the old and allow the new to come in and a new way of thinking. And you know, that shit takes a lot of time, but you know, all of us have to do our part to push it forward. That's all we could do.
Absolutely. All right, E.D.I, well, appreciate you coming through, man, to Unique Access. Always a pleasure chopping it up with you, man.
Always a pleasure chopping it up with you, Soren. Much continued success. I can't wait to see the interview when it's all done. And I appreciate your support always, dog.